Now, Friday, June 29, is going down as another Black Friday in Ghana, following news about the death of former Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur. The former central bank governor, who was selected by former President John Mahama to be his running mate in the 2012 election, was said to have collapsed at the Air Force Officers' Gym near Burma Camp, where he had gone for his routine exercise. Now, he subsequently died at the 37 military hospital where he had been rushed. We have more in this report for you by Joseph Opoku-Gakpo.
The former vice president had driven to the Air Force. The former vice president had driven to the Air Force's gym in the company of his wife. He was said to be on one of the exercise machines when he collapsed. Minority Chief Whip in Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak, gave the following account.
A while ago, the leadership from the minority, like you said, Mr. Speaker, we were in the House to confirm what we're hearing as customs demand. And Mr. Speaker, we can confirm from the family that we've lost our compatriots. Mr. Speaker, we are told that it happened this morning in and around 6:30 a.m. Our comrade drove himself with the wife to the gym at the Air Force Base, as he usually does. I'm told it's around the aviation center. But Mr. Speaker, he drove himself with the wife to the gym, and we are told after the exercise, for whatever reason, he collapsed. They tried to resuscitate him. He came up and they rushed to the 37 military hospital. Even there, they thought he had stabilized. Then 30 minutes thereabout, he relapsed and we lost him. Mr. Speaker, it comes to all of us as a great shock.
At the 37 military hospital, his brother and former head of the Veep authority, Jabesh Amissah-Arthur, was at the morgue to check up on the remains. He was spotted interacting with some senior military officials. Hospital officials say the case is being treated as a coroner case.
How Professor Kwesi Botwe had not asked this question. Is it time for you to lead the NDC?
Oh, what a time to be asking a question like that. I'm frankly so totally devastated. My whole mind and body is absorbed in this deep depression and sadness. I can't even think of what to say to you.
This is a thought you've always held dear. If you should know by now if you're going to lead the party or not.
No. I'm not in that mood at all, honestly. I'll be honest with you. I'm so...
Well, former President Jerry John Rawlings was also at the residence to commiserate with the family. He described the late Amissah-Arthur as one of the few humble ones.
Yes, sir. I just want to know your fondest memories of him. You were his boss. How do you remember him, sir? How do you remember him, sir? What will be your fondest memories of him, sir?
One of the humble ones, hardworking. And he bailed us out of some pretty serious situations when I was in office. You'll hear more later. Okay?
What lessons should we draw from
How do you feel right now, sir? Thank you.
Now, the former vice president's mother is alive and lives in Cape Coast suburb of Ola. Joy News' Central Region correspondent Richard Kojunyako reports the family took pains to ensure news about her son's death was tactfully delivered to her. According to Richard, this involved disconnecting electricity to the house and cutting all forms of electronic communication available to her.
This was the scene at the family house of the former Vice President, Kwesi Amissah, here at Ola in Cape Coast at 7 a.m. Residents who had heard the news started massing up at the residence. There were some who wanted confirmation, some who had confirmation of the news already, and some who were curious, wanting to know more about the death of the former Vice President. The family did not want people to get close to the family house because they had difficulty breaking the news to the mother of the former Vice President. The mother, Madam Efe Amissah, who is about 90 years, they fear something terrible could happen if they did not use diplomacy and tact in breaking the news. Her phone was switched off, the radio and television sets were disconnected, and eventually the electricity supply was disconnected in their bid to manage the sad news of the death of her son. At about midday, the crowd grew thicker, and some elderly members of the family, together with some priests of the Methodist Church, managed to break the news to her. It was a breathtaking moment. Residents of Cape Coast who had had contact with him a few days ago say there is none like him. They praised him for his decency and his gentle character.
Sad news on your papa. When
was the last time you saw him?
Muhuni Saturday. Yet to abo CNC, Oboton, constituency, but Obotu Mori, Yenukrum, Mori, Oboto, Abotu, if you want, no obey CNC, obey him.
Personally, I've missed greatly because even though I have a good team that is ready to work, but then I was looking up to other people who had also shown that interest in that preparedness to make sure that this current administration that I'm heading succeed. So to me, I've made a confidant as someone who was ever ready to push my cause.
The presiding bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Right Reverend Titus Awotwe Pratt, and other bishops and priests of the Methodist Church visited the house to commiserate with the family. The Zongo community in the region was not left out. Mahmoud Dande Mazawaze, the fourth, is the head of the Central Regional Zongo Chiefs.
Just on Wednesday, on the 27th, I was with him until 6:30 p.m. at the launch of the book called The Wife of a Vice President, My Journey, quote and unquote. So I woke up this morning, this is the sad news that met me. And I don't think I could just sit in my house. I really needed to come to the family house and confirm it. And then say my condolences to them as well.
The NDC party in the Central Region has instructed all constituencies in the region to halt all activities and converge in Cape Coast to show their love to the family on Saturday. Regional organizer of the party, Peter Kofi Owusu-Eshia, spoke on behalf of the party.
You got a great father, you got a great model for all of us. Calm person, always keeping a smile. He will never allow you to go astray.
The former vice president, about a week ago, joined the NDC.
Now from Parliament House, Joseph Opoku-Gapo reports there was a minute's silence after which MPs eulogized the late Kwesi Amissah.
Well, Parliament today paid tribute to the late Kwesi Amissah, and there was even a 1 minute silence to his memory, as MPs indicated that this is a situation that has really hit them hard, and well, it may take them a bit of time to recover. Minority Chief Whip in Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak, opened the discussions on the floor of Parliament earlier today.
We extend our condolences to the family, the NDC party, and those of us in the minority who really missed him on most of his useful advice. Like I said in the speaker, I know an opportunity will come for us to pay proper tribute to him. But to say that this is really, really, Mr. Speaker, a great shock to the country. And, Mr. Speaker, looking at our health facility and the way we take good care of ourselves today, I think 67 thereabout, he died too young.
Majority Leader Seichi Mensah Bonsu also shared very fond memories of the late Pakwesi Mr. Arthur, indicating that it's too bad a situation that someone who was never sick, had been healthy all this while, has to pass on so quickly.
I believe that Pakwesi Mr. Arthur strived to do his best for the country. He was not one who was struggling for the position of a vice president, but God knows how he programs and plans for individuals on earth. And so he found himself, not having solicited for any position, but he found himself as the vice president. When he came before us, it had not happened in the history of this country before us, when Parliament had to vet him. So we had to confer and consult amongst ourselves to see what to do, what we deem fit and appropriate for us as a nation.
Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, had the following to say about Pakwesi Mr. Arthur.
He started his life as a teaching assistant, a position in Legon usually given to the brightest of our boys and girls, young men and women. After that, he graduated into being a lecturer, systematically. Many people don't know that in the many years of Dr. Kwesi Botwe as Minister for Finance, he was a special assistant, a man who went through the mill as special assistant. No wonder he graduated to better performance in due course. All those years I knew him because I was very close to the finance minister at that time. He always worked as a dedicated person. No wonder Dr. Botwe won't let him go and kept him with him, and he served very well.
Earlier in the day, minority MPs visited the residence of the late Mr. Arthur to pay tribute, not to pay. Earlier in the
So that's Joseph Opoku-Gapo coming to us live from Parliament earlier in the day. Well, we'll leave you with some memorable moments from the life and times of the former Vice President who passed the morning of Friday, June 29. So that was a clip of the former Vice President Pakwesi Mr. Arthur there. We're taking a short break, but still ahead in business, we will, the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, pays glowing tribute to his former work colleague and Vice President Pakwesi Mr. Arthur, describing him as hardworking. And later on, At least 6 people have been confirmed dead in floods in the Ashanti regional capital. We have details of that after business. You're welcome back. Now, the death toll in flash floods that hit the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, has reached 6, including a family of 4 who died at Asebi near Asokore Mampong. The mother of 3 of the 4 children who died is still unaccounted for. The body of a 6-year-old girl was also found at Kwadaso, whilst a 40-year-old man also died at Ijira. The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has already begun demolition of slum dwellings along storm drains in the city as a way of dealing with the indiscriminate dumping of refuse in the drain, partly blamed for what is being described as the worst floods in the city's history. Erastus Asaridonko reports.
5 people dead, 4 of them children. 1 is a 2-year-old boy. The others are teenagers. And then we have 1 woman who is still missing at the moment. And this is as a result of close to 2 hours of rain in Kumasi, which started around 4:30 yesterday. Where I'm standing now was chest deep floods that inundated this part of Kumasi. This is Amlaga Junction. The road from Accra to Adum was blocked totally, cut off, where commercial vehicles coming in from that end had to drop their passengers there and they had to wade through the waters to the other side. Now the KMA has been talking tough. It has renewed promises that it is going to press on measures to demolish buildings sited in waterways. We have many of them in Bokrom, Dabai New Site, Amlaga Junction, Kwadaso, Insium, name them. They have now started demolishing structures here on the Abu Abu drain. These are slum dwellings. We had lasted there for a long time.
This morning and just this afternoon, we have seen the buildings being pulled down. So this is exactly what the direction that we are going. Buildings on waterways are going to be pulled down. What we have to also let the public know or encourage the public to do is to desist from throwing things into the drains, things into the...
There are some structures sitting in waterways. When you go to Dabai, where there was flooding yesterday, we have some there. You go to Bokrom, we have structures like that there. Kwadaso, Insium, people have built haphazardly. He is saying they are going to do the demolition. That is what they have started here, as you're seeing in your shot. Do we have the political will this time around to do this?
The political will is there, the courage, the brevity, and then it's there for us to demolish. If you can recall, last year, even somewhere around Jofel, we did some demolition there. And this year too, we have started. So we're going to continue. What we want to advise people is also to stop putting building on waterway.
But then they disagree. Some of them disagree. We have been speaking with some of them. They have mixed feelings on what the KMA intend to do. But they all believe in one thing, that the right thing should be done to ensure we do not have these floods, unprecedented in the history of Kumasi.
The breaking down of the buildings and the flooding used to happen every year, though when it happens it costs us a lot.
But you admit that some of you, the byproduct from your activities here, you dump them in the drain as well.
That one is not true. We have a container that we put our that would dump our this in our rubbish. You see, we don't throw anything, we don't throw bullets anywhere. That's not how we do it here. We know here this place is not good for human beings, but we have no option. Why? The condition over here is very bad, but we have no option.
Why don't you have an option? You have a place where you hail from.
Actually, we are from North. Over there, we can't get such job here. The job that we are pursuing here, we can't get it North. We don't have any company, any factory that will accommodate.
But that doesn't also mean that you should be living illegally.
Actually, we can't afford for a better place. We can't afford for a better place. We don't have money. You see, we earn here, we manage here and earn living. Our families, our brothers and sisters, when they complain, you get 10 cedi, 2 cedi and send to them. You see, but when it happens this way, every living soul here is very angry.
Erastus Asaridonko joins me live from Kumasi with the latest on the aftermath of the floods. Erastus, do we have information on the whereabouts of the mother of the 3 children who went missing?
No, as at about 6 p.m. when I called the NADMO coordinator they are still searching for her, and they've not been able to locate her yet.
And describe to us the extent of damage in the wake of the floods. How widespread also was the flooding?
Well, many places is not restricted to one area alone, but the major areas, we have the Aulaga Junction area, which stopped commercial vehicles from crossing that portion for a very long time. We had the airport runabout, Bokrom area, also largely affected. And then one area at Angomaso was also totally cut off. So this is widespread, scattered across the city.
And we know the city authorities have started the demolition of some slum dwellings. How far do they intend to take this?
In fact, they have done some demolition in the past 7 buildings close to the airport runabout area. There are still more obstructing the free flow of water. And the KMA boss, Mr. Asibe Entry, has been talking tough. He intends to take the fight to other areas per the assessment of the city engineers.
Months ago, the Works Department came and gave them warning notice to leave this area, but yet...
Are referring to the squatters?
The squatters. Yet, they said they were looking for places. In fact, as humanly as we are, we actually came there, sat them down, educated them that we are doing this not to punish them, but in their own interest. But yesterday, look at what happened. They have to be rescued. So now we are not giving them enough time any longer. Today we are marking it for demolition, and we will work out a strategy to get all the structures demolished on time.
We are talking about Bokrom line, the airport runabout. We've seen many of these buildings clearly with a layman's eye sitting dangerously in the waterways, blocking access to free flow of water. What is going to happen?
Last year, per the reports that I received, 7 were demolished. And 7 were demolished. So as you have rightly said, see, matters of this nature, at times you need an engineering advice. You need a good advice. So that is why my engineers are all with me. They also take stock of what happened to see whether there's the need to demolish further. If there's the need to demolish further, we will do it.
But I think by now you've done some assessment. You think
no, the people are all out. The engineers are all out, but they will come back and give their reports. There are certain areas that the reports are ready, which we have served notices to the people occupying the various houses to leave the houses for demolition.
Now, news of the death of former Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur scuttled plans by the opposition NDC to embark on a massive demonstration Friday. The party had served notice at a news conference it held on Thursday that it would hit the streets to protest the removal of chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, and her 2 deputies by President Akufo-Addo. The president, in a statement on Thursday, announced implementation of recommendations of a committee set up by the Chief Justice to investigate allegations of fraud and malfeasance against Madam Osei, Amadu Sule, and Georgina Opoku-Amankwa. The shocking news of Mr. Amissah-Arthur's death, however, compelled the party to put off the demonstration. Aspiring youth organizer of the party, Elikem Kotoko, spoke earlier to my colleague, Kojo Yangson.
It is gradually becoming evident that a particular government is in power and is actually intending to turn this nation into a banana republic, where when they have an agenda that, look, on coming into power, we have always said that everybody is incompetent and all that. And for that reason, that is an agenda we must embark on to bastardize everybody. On the other hand, however, it is most unfortunate that we heard news of the passing of our former vice president. And as a result of that, we are calling off the demonstration because it will not be proper for us that we have lost our vice president this morning and still embark on the demonstration.
Did you seek permission for this demonstration as the law requires?
The law requires that we seek permission, but we know
a notification.
We did not seek permission, but may I kindly just alert you with a simple analogy that, Kojo, if you were in your house this early morning and an armed robber break into your house, pointing a gun to your wife or your kid's head, will you say that they should be there for you to go and actually call the law enforcer before you act? No. There are times when drastic measures actually have to be taken because of the situation at hand. And if not because of the passing of our vice president, this demonstration will still have come on anyway, but we are ourselves calling it off as a result of the passing of our vice president. We are not fighting for Charlotte Osei. We are not fighting for her deputies. We are fighting for the institution called the Electoral Commission, its democracy and its sanctity. It is the arbiter of our elections, and we must protect that at all times to make sure that the last arbiter of our elections, of our democracy, is always protected to ensure that its safety is actually guarded.
Well, the governing MPP is meanwhile fighting off claims of politicization in the dismissal of Madam Charlotte Osei. It has been addressing a news conference, details of which we will bring to you shortly. But first, let's go through the reasons why Madam Charlotte Osei was removed from office. So out of the 6 allegations against her, the committee found her guilty on all 6 of them relating to the procurement breaches. A $2.3 million USAID contract. The allegation was that the Public Procurement Act was not adhered to. The Electoral Commission, according to the committee, also failed to obtain approval of the Public Procurement Authority for the restrictive tendering method it used. Quote, there was no justifiable excuse for the chairperson's failure to comply with the Public Procurement Act. Quote, the non-compliance of the Public Procurement Act by the chairperson can only be explained in terms of her incompetence in understanding the grant document she executed. Contracts awarded Quasar Limited to change and redevelop the EC's logo. Allegation was that the chairperson unilaterally awarded a contract of about $25,000. The Entity Tender Committee and the Entity Tender Review Panel were not involved in the procurement process. The contract awarded to Quasar Limited to repackage the strategic plan of the Commission, which was funded by UNDP. The committee established that this allegation is not true, but held that from the evidence, therefore, the chairperson as head of the entity breached Section 38 of the Public Procurement Act, Act 663, as amended, for her failure to seek approval from the Public Procurement Authority before using the restricted tender method of procurement. Well, Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has dismissed claims the removal of the EC's top officials is politically motivated.
What we have seen appears to be high simmering tensions within the Electoral Commission, which resulted in an implosion after the 2016 elections. These are the facts of the matter, and these are the very facts that the Constitution of the Republic were applied against. Remember that the President took an oath to abide by the dictates of the Constitution of Ghana, failing which he pledged to subject himself to penalties arising therefrom. He has done nothing more or less than to uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. It will be tragic for the country, in the face of these facts and circumstances, for anyone to attempt to turn this matter into a party political affair, as indeed some people are seeking to do. Let me add, Let me add that every person, including the President of the Republic of Ghana, is subject to the laws of our republic. That is very important to stress. And that we cannot have a country where we have one set of rules for ordinary citizens and another set of rules for people who occupy administrative or, if you want, political office.
Now, let's get on the line and speak with the national organizer of the opposition NDC, Kofi Adams, for a reaction to government's justification of the EC boss's removal. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Adams. Now, you asked for answers. Government says her removal was based on evidence that shows she breached procurement laws in the award of several contracts in her 3-year period at the helm of affairs prior to the 2016 elections. That is due process, no?
However, I think let me greet you first. Good evening and good evening to your viewers. You've answered the question yourself, that it is a big no. And that those things that they are advancing are just covered up by a political decision that the president has taken. It is the president's decision. They cannot run away from it. I've heard them argue that, oh, the president only followed what I thought. It is the decision of the president.
But an allegation was made against her. Evidence was adduced, and she was found culpable.
You see, every institution has its core mandate. In which of these allegations made against the 3 commissioners that the president has removed from office, that you can clearly see that these violations are directly related to their core mandate. You're hearing of procurement. You're hearing of political parties' primaries payment. You're hearing of partitioning of office. And these are issues that mostly auditing process helps to improve. There are no strong reasons to remove an officer. Indeed, the president is presiding over a government that has ministers who have violated procurement issues and procurement regulations and procurement laws of this country. Well, we know in this country, when we were told that the agric minister procure chemicals to fight armyworms, that didn't go through procurement process. Or you know, in this country, is he still not agric minister? Or the president is not aware that that is a violation of procurement process? Are we not in this country that people are petitioning? The president says he was just a conveyor belt. Why has he blocked the movement of the petition against the Chief Justice? Why hasn't he also pushed that one through as a conveyor belt? That's why it is clear that the government has taken a political decision to remove commissioners of Electoral Commission. One has already gone on retirement. So removing the 3 topmost means that you do not have 4 out of 7. And soon others will be going on retirement. And people think that we should just sit and laugh over this.
So you maintain your position that this is just a grand orchestration by the MPP government to
push her out. It's a grand orchestration by MPP government to achieve one single objective, that let me put in my persons there because I know I am failing and I have failed. Tell me one campaign promise that they have delivered, that Ghanaians have applauded for them, for which reason you think that they could be returned to power, except wanting to use subterfuge and backdoor. Then that won't happen. But if this is their thinking for which they have embarked on this project, it will not happen.
But you talk about selective justice and that there are other officials in the MPP government who've also breached, as you say, the Public Procurement Act. Be that as it may, there's evidence to show that the EC boss actually breached the Public Procurement Act. So is sanctioning her not the way to go?
And I'm saying that breaching Public Procurement Act, is it strong reason enough to remove the Commissioner of Electoral Commission, who has creditably performed the core mandate of registering people, conducting elections and referenda, which they have done and done so well? Is it enough to remove them? If the president is saying that he only acted because they brought petitions. What has he not acted on the youth petition against the Chief Justice?
But the Electoral Commission is supposed to uphold the highest level of integrity. If she doesn't, who will? And so this argument, some may say, is flawed.
I'm saying that I agree with you when you raise all those others. And I'm saying they have their core mandate. Have they failed on their core mandate? Did they truly procure those things in order to perform their core mandate? Did they have them in the performance of their core mandate? Could they have procured those things they did in a better way? Yes. They could have done it. Maybe they could have secured approval of the appropriate agencies, which they did not. It is not like you are accusing them of inflating or what have you. All you are saying is that, oh, they didn't seek permission yet. They shouldn't have done restricted tendering without the permission from PPA and so on and so forth. So far, nobody has stated that what they procured under restricted tendering would have been procured for less. That's not even the argument.
Very well. Now we know that you now have had to cancel Friday's planned demonstration due to the untimely death of the former Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur. In the light of the explanations offered, do you still intend to go ahead with the demonstration?
Of course, the explanation has just indicated that they had no basis to do what they have done. Indeed, the committee should not have reached the kind of decision that they reached.
So,
unless it was part of the orchestration, it's part of the plan. And we will continue to ask that why speedily refer one petition within a day after receiving, you referred by the next day, and then another petition, you have sat on it for months on end. Is the president being just? Can we say that our president has been just to us, has upheld the Constitution?
Very well. All right. Many thanks for your time. That is NDC National Organizer Kofi Adams there. So what happens now that Madam Charlotte Osei and her two deputies have been removed? Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has been throwing some light on steps to replace the three commissioners.
Right now, the next step that the president is going to take in respect of this matter is to forward this report to the Attorney General. It is the Attorney General who basically is in charge of legal matters and of prosecutions and issues of the sort. So the Attorney General will study the report by herself, and I'm sure in due course she will report to the Ghanaian people the series of measures and steps that she will take in order to ensure full compliance with the recommendations of this committee. That's number one. Number two, in respect of appointing a new EC commissioner or commissioners, all I can say to you is that, again, there are constitutional processes. The president has to do these matters in consultation with the Council of State. And so I am sure those processes will be triggered almost immediately. All I can assure is that it will be done in such a way that if there are constitutionally mandated duties that the commission ought to perform, that these do not fall in jeopardy. So that's all I can say, but it will be done within the earliest possible time under the ambit of the law.
Well, in the wake of Madam Charlotte Osei's dismissal, there have been suggestions this could have dire implications on the agenda to ensure representation of women at the highest level of political office. Proponents argue it will erode the gains made in efforts to empower women, but opponents insist the gender card must not be played in this situation. Be that as it may, former Minister for Gender and Social Protection, Nanoye Litha, has described the immediate past chairperson of the Electoral Commission as an excellent public servant who will soar higher even after her removal.
It's not just about a woman. In Charlotte, we have an excellent public servant, very dedicated, highly intelligent, great achiever, a performer, and I believe it's an unfortunate loss to the Republic of Ghana. And wherever Charlotte will go, the next steps that she'll take, I know she's going to soar higher and higher. We're really very grateful to her for her great service to Mother Ghana, first as chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education and as chairman of the Electoral Commission. She has done her work, and whoever takes over should continue to make the Electoral Commission a more efficient place. Thank you.
So, in her first official response to the developments, SAC chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, has said she will allow a period of mourning for the late Vice President, Kwesi Amissah-Arthur, before fully responding to the President's decision to remove her from post. Here are extracts of a statement she released earlier Friday, and I read, "I will at this time withhold my response to the presidential decision or the President's decision while we commiserate with Vice President Amissah-Arthur's family and pray for the peaceful repose of his soul. Despite all the attacks, the character assassinations, the falsehoods, the curses, and the relentless plots and threats against my family and I over the past 3 years of my service as the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, I chose to remain silent and focus on delivering on my constitutional mandate to the best of my ability. Indeed, records show that I presided over the 2015 District Assembly election and the 2016 presidential and parliamentary elections to the best of my ability. I prefer to leave the standard and quality of those elections for Ghanaians, history and posterity to judge. I still hold the view and believe that our country deserves an electoral commission that is truly independent, unbiased, free, fair and fun, and can fight off all attempts to politically capture, manipulate, influence, and control it." So those were extracts of a statement released by the immediate past EC chairperson, Charlotte Osei. We're taking a break.